Okie
Yeah.
doke.
Yeah.
Well, Jorine, more and more people.
Yeah.
So let me briefly introduce yourself, and maybe you can tell a bit more about how you came to start this topic. We've met recently. You have a kick out of how can we help people in organizations? How can we change the cultures, make it a safe and place where people can really be themselves? So I think it's an important topic. Also, when you work in all kinds of lean transformations, it's not always easy. So I think it is a very important topic to talk about. So very happy that you're here. You're one of the key people in the Netherlands on the topic. You also worked quite closely with what's her name? Amy
Amy,
Edmondson,
Harvard professor Amy Edmondson.
Harvard professor Amy Edmondson, who I met, I think, 6 or 7 years ago in the US at one of our summits. So I'm happy you're here. Let's get started, Jorine, with your talk.
Thank you, Renee. Welcome, everybody. I'm very happy that you invited me, and I'm trying to speak as best English as I can because I've talked all the day Dutch, so I have to really translate it a little bit faster in my head now. Well, at least yes, I'm Jorine Beks, and I'm totally into psychological safety, and exactly then in promoting it and also building psychological safety, or as well an open and safe work environment in your team, in your organization. And I already saw some answers in the chat because of the questions which you can see. Is what do you think of when you hear the word psychological safety? And people are already sharing things about feeling safe, daring to tell you real thoughts and feelings, psychological safety space where I don't get damaged at the cycle. Okay, able to speak up, honestly, place to be myself, safe place, of course, where you can make mistakes. Yes. Uh, Lots of I can see now, and it is indeed. It is about being able to. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's also about learning together, engagement, trust in the group. I can speak up, can be who you are. Quite a lot the same kind of answers, a little bit. And just a little bit some ideas about psychological safety. It's not only about trust, it's also the means to make sure that the different parts of a high performing team really works. So it's not only about trust, it's also about candor, so that you dare to speak up, but also that you can make a difference together. Shall we go to the next slide? What I really like is how you all already used the chat. If you have any questions, please share them also in the chat. We only have half an hour, and I think I'm going to talk quite fast so I can tell a lot, but that doesn't mean you can't ask any questions. So please use the chat, and I will check them in between, and perhaps also Renee will have a look at it because I'm talking all the time. So thanks already for sharing all these answers in the chat. As you can read, it's doinking. That's thinking and doing together, doinking. And that's the combination, because if you just because you think you know how it works doesn't mean you can make it work. And if you get it working but you don't know why, then you can't get it any further. And so that's why I came up with doinking. As I already said, I'm Jorine Beks. I'm all into psychological safety. I've written several books on this theme and translated that into a variety of activities and exercises. So also during this 30 minutes, I will try to invite you to really get going. And as we say in the Netherlands, psychological safety is not something you build between the soup and the potatoes. And it's not just learning about it or reading about it. You build it by doing it and doing it again and continuing to do it. It's about explore, reflect, learn, and do it again. So let's start and go on this adventure. We're going to have it over about why now? Why is it that important? What is it? How does it work? And how you can make it work. So it's the first little inspiration session. We can't, of course, talk you through all the literature and all the theory, but we hope you will get some idea how you can make it work again just right away tomorrow. Okay, perhaps you know that sometimes when you're at a meeting, a stand up, and you ask a question and you hope that people will answer your question, but then they don't. And why don't they answer your questions? Well, that also might happen to you when when you are being asked a question, or when you are in a meeting and you think, well, there's something I think about, but why? Perhaps I can say something. And then you feel or you hear your own, one of the voices in your head. And that voice says, well, if you mention this, perhaps people think you're stupid. Or if I mention this, perhaps my manager doesn't like it. So this is a smart and thinking question. Again, oh, you ever have experience getting out of a meeting thinking, I wanted to say it, wanted to do it, wanted to ask it, and then all those options, all those voices in your head. We are very curious whether you want to share it. What do you hear in your head that makes that you don't speak up? And for example, perhaps you think people might think I'm stupid or silly, or perhaps the manager won't like it, or perhaps it's too late, or perhaps there's no time in the meeting, or perhaps I don't understand any of the questions. Fear of failure, rejection. I can see it in the chat, and perhaps some others. And why we are sharing this is because feeling unsafe, because that's about psychological unsafety. If you start talking about this already, you can ask this question also in your team. Then people know, well, I'm not the only one, because we all have the same. All the people want to feel safe. So all the people also know how it is to be not feeling feels unsafe. My idea will be put down. We're asked to take on more work. Yeah, if you have an idea, you think, oh, it's your idea, so just get started. I hear it a lot. Again, thanks for sharing. And I see thumbs up 3 times already for will be asked to take on more work. And I hear it quite a lot. And that's of course very hard when you're about improving something or changing in a positive way. But if you share an idea, it's up to you. Yeah, are you still happy for sharing ideas? As you say, no. Maybe not as smart as I think I am. Yeah, I hear it also a lot. So the thing is, all the people, remember, when you have that stand up and you're standing there and you ask a question and people won't answer the question, think of this, that all the people might think, perhaps they think I'm stupid. Perhaps they think that I have to do it then myself. So now you know what they might think. So perhaps you can check it, whether that's true. Will they understand me? Thanks again. So we just move on because we only have 20 minutes left. Oh, I have to talk much faster.
Calm down.
Sorry?
Calm down. You'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, psychological safety. Why now? You can go on to the next slide because there's the visual. Thank you. You might be thinking it stands to reason. #MeToo, Black Lives Matters, etc. However, it has been going on way longer. And this becomes clearly visible when we look from meta to micro, or from when we zoom out and zoom in. Then we become suddenly aware why it is so top of mind. To begin with, it feels like the world is spinning faster and faster. It can't, of course, but it does seem that way. You used to be able to cash in or live off innovation for a few years, and nowadays mainly maybe only a few months or even less. And on top of that, the world has also become more uncertain. I don't think I have to tell you what the effect of COVID is, or the war in the Ukraine. And social media has also a big influence. So first, the changing world. Then secondly, organizations have changed in the way they are organized. You used to have never change a winning team. Well, nowadays you are in 8 teams on average, and they must work in that continuously faster spinning world. So perform immediately. And this requires all kinds of knowledge of team members, because no one can understand everything. However, there's no time for team building sessions. And when you are in 8 different teams, perhaps building a raft every time does get boring. So firstly, the world, secondly, the organizations. And then thirdly, ourselves, the human being. We have changed too. We want more autonomy, more connections, and more knowledge. And it is precisely this autonomy and connection that is a challenge, because we all want it in a customized way. It's no longer either or, but both and. Well, and then the latest change is that we are increasingly becoming aware of the difference between diversity and inclusion. That without psychological safety, we cannot gain from diversity, and that then no inclusion will occur. So in this kind of process, power relations are the subject of discussion and of development of new behavior. So the old behavior in which the boss says what we have to do is not going to get us any further. So why now? The world seems to be spinning faster. Organizations are full of teams, and we take care that psychological safety is the tool to use to get started. And if there is, how can you identify if the person is not feeling safe in a general meeting? We're going, I see your questions, and we're going again back to that question about how do you know one person is feeling not okay, and how can you check it? So I will go on that a little bit later. Psychological safety, the different perspectives. As you can see, the physical safety, it's about the working shoe safety shoes, for example. And then you see social safety and psychological safety. And in the Netherlands, we really split them because there's a really different focus on the different types of safety. With social safety, we mean being protected and feeling protected from danger caused by the actions of someone else within a social setting. So here, protection is about measures. Think of rules, agreements, a confidential counselor, those kind of things. And then psychological safety is mainly about the subtle interaction between people. The fact that you can give your opinion, suggest ideas, contradict the manager, and challenge each other to do better. And that in a way that everyone can participate and that you are jointly responsible for a positive climate. So social safety is an organizational issue, and psychological safety is built in teams and spreads through the organization. So that is the main difference. And yes, it's best for the organization to make a safe space for everyone to get their true creativity and performance. Yes, that's true, Scott. That's very important. Okay. Do you want to say something, René, or not?
Nope.
Okay, I thought you make some noise. I'm just checking. As René already mentioned, Harvard professor Amy Edmondson, which I work with together, and we conduct some research together, it's very nice. She already conducted research in 1999, and she did it on the best functioning team of nurses in a hospital. And she hypothesizes, difficult word for me, that the best functioning teams make the least mistakes. And what did research show? It turned out that they make the most mistakes on paper. They record all things that go wrong, and then they share these mistakes with each other. And through this, they learn a great deal. So how is that possible? Her conclusion: psychological safety. Many years later was there Google. And Google started an investigation into high performance teams. Their only mission is making money. And if they have the key to that team and if they can copy it, they will always be ahead of the competition. So Google did the research with the aid of behavioral scientists. So all sort of things were tried. Because perhaps was it because of the different colors from disk or inside? Was it because of people's backgrounds or diversity? And every time when they thought, now we have the key, it turned out not to work after the implementation. So after 4 years of research and almost losing hope, one of the researchers, Julia Rosowski, happened to run into Amy Edmondson's research. And she couldn't believe it, but in the end, it was true. So the nice thing of it is that psychological safety is not only about learning and innovating, but also about performing. But what made perhaps the most interesting result is that Google has a very strong culture. This is how we work within Google. But between the different teams, there was some high diversity in the psychological safety, the level of psychological safety. So you yourself can influence the level of psychological safety within your team. So that's a main interesting result from that research. Okay, so this was some research, and perhaps you're very curious, how can I recognize the head in my team? And I already see something about liberating structures. I love liberating structures. Sorry, I just saw it. And the methods. Yeah, very nice methods. And yeah, very, very nice. I also want to for all. But anyway, psychological safety. How does it work? How can you recognize it? Well, sometimes the term psychological safety leads to frowns and question marks. Is there something wrong with my mental health? Should we have very heavy talks with each other? Perhaps the term also sounds kind of overwhelming and a little heavy. So how can you get this working actively? Well, a team where psychological safety is present has the following 5 characteristics. It's about inclusion and diversity. People feel at home in their team. They belong and are allowed to be who they are. Open conversations, people dare to give their opinion, propose ideas, and discuss mistakes openly with each other. 3 is delivering. People take the initiative and take ownership for tasks and performances, and everyone feels like being a fully cooperating team member. And then challenging, people dare to question established view, go against the flow, and challenge themselves too. And then resilience, one feels responsible for a positive team atmosphere, shows resilience in times of trouble, and is able to give a positive twist to conflicts. So emotions are seen as a signal. Well, of course, and I was just thinking, okay, the question is, what do you think in your team? If you show, where does your team score highest on? Is that on inclusion and diversity, open communication, contributing, challenging, or resilience? Is it that you say, okay, everyone is okay to be who you are? Is it about we share everything? Is it about contributing from moment one? Everyone contributes, challenge each other, or resilience, like you see emotions as a signal? I see contributing. Very nice. I also see a question about introvert team members. I'll just write it down, because I think it's very important one also. Open communication, inclusion, contributing.
Challenging.
No, sorry?
Challenging.
Challenging, yes, I see inclusion, challenging. I was also thinking, because I've asked it today also. I gave a college lesson at the university. Sorry?
A lecture at
a lecture, thank you, at a college or at university. Yes, sorry, lecture. And again, in the Netherlands, it's all about contributing. The whole week, people just score on contributing. I think we have too much to do together. So that's why I'm also looking at it. Inclusion, diversity. Okay, thanks a lot. So perhaps it's a good idea to go any further, because I also read something about leadership. So how can you make it work? And I saw something about the introvert and extrovert people, and how you can also make sure that you also hear their ideas from the introvert people. So I also think it's very important to share that also. Then about leadership qualities, and this are not the leaders, but also personal leadership qualities. So in addition to getting to know how your team scores on these 5 characteristics, And being is also the next question is how can you build psychological safety? And as I told you, it applies to both you as a team member and as a manager. So also again, you yourself can influence it. I still have to explain.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry.
It's bad.
Okay, so the first one, attention, is about knowing and feeling. It's about paying attention, know how psychological safety works, the theory, so you know what to do. But also see and hear your team members. Take their emotions seriously and certainly be aware of your own emotions. We sometimes forget about our gut feeling at work, while this often is a clear compass. And EQ is at least as important as the IQ. And the beautiful thing is, EQ is a skill, so you can train it. So the first thing is about knowing and feeling. And the second one, authenticity, is about the true self. So being authentic. Every person is different. You are different. Every team is different. So creating psychological safety is always customized. Gather as many options as possible to build psychological safety to fit the situation and stay true to yourself. Who are you, your personality, the others' personalities? And as soon as your own behavior starts to act, you become unreliable. So determine why psychological safety is so important to you, and then you can spread your ideas. And then the last one is about active, and that's about the growth mindset. As I mentioned before, you won't develop psychological safety, as we say in the Dutch, between the soup and the potatoes. You have to work on it actively every day, just like improving a process, just like the whole lean ID. Always try to take the biggest possible small step. So in the end, you have an impact on every interaction. Play with the different options, have a growth mindset, not a fixed one. That also means to be vulnerable in inviting others to start showing different behavior as well. And then we have those small nudges, so-called nudges, small moves. You can also initiate bigger invention, but small nudges are always possible. So I think we can go on now. Yes, thank you. The 3D check and the 1, 2, 4 all. Well, the 1, 2, 4 all, perhaps you know it already, and that is from Liberating Structure. When there are introvert people in your team, but it's also very helpful for extrovert people, then 1, 2, 4 all can help very well. So that means if you have a question, if you want to know something, if you have a statement, then first all the people in the team start thinking for it for 1 minute for themselves. Write perhaps something on a note. Then they share it together in pairs. So what do you think? What do I think? And they share it. It's very short, only 2 people, about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's it. And then perhaps when it's a little bit unsafe, you can say again, new pairs, and otherwise you go in a little small group from 4 or 5 people and they share it again. And then one person from that group of people will share it in plenary anyway, with the whole group. And so the one who doesn't feel safe to speak up, also that voice will be heard. The nice thing is that you have the time to think and write down and talk about it. That's very nice for introvert people, but also for the extrovert. So before they start shouting and speaking up, they have to think also. And I think that's better for everyone. And then the 3D check in, check out. I guess that you all know the check-in and the check-out with the stand-up meetings. What I see a lot, and perhaps not at your meetings and your stand-ups, but I see a lot is that it goes a lot, most of the time about the check-in, how are you? So more about the trust. How's your energy? How are you today? Do you want to share anything? And that's very important. That is one of the legs of the tripod stool. But another check-in is also on what are we going to do today, or in this meeting, when are we happy? So what is on the agenda? And then the third one is how are we going to do it? And that is not about the process, but it's about the behavior. Are we going to speak up? Are we going to ask questions to understand each other? Are we curious about the ideas from the other person? And then at the end of the meeting, to check out again, you check what about your energy now, perhaps with thumbs up or with smiley faces. Is it the agenda? Did we make it or not? And then how did we work together? Sometimes it might be that the end of the meeting is sooner than you thought. So perhaps you only have 1 minute, 30 seconds, 5 seconds. You can always end with a question, which I call pay it forward question, where you ask the people something they start thinking of, because most of the people go to the next meeting, and with what kind of thinking, behavior, thoughts you want them to start that new meeting. So you can end with a question like, did you speak up, or did you say what you wanted to say, or did you learn something, or were you curious? Whatever, what you think is important to spread in the behavior through the organization. So I saw the question about introvert team members, and we're almost through time. Did you see any questions, Renee? You said, oh, you have to ask them.
Yeah, that was
I'll answer
that
them.
one.
Sorry.
So how do you deal with introvert people?
And that's the introvert people, so one, two for all, and the extrovert. So it's very nice to use, and you've got different possibilities so that the introvert also have the time. But I also in the beginning of a meeting is, okay, we are with 12 people, we have 60 minutes. So every person has 5 minutes for time to speak up, to say something. So if you talk a little bit longer, you take time from the other person. That doesn't mean that the introverts say, well, then I just talk 5 minutes also. But perhaps you can use something else like a word cloud. But what I use a lot is 1, 2 for all. It really works. So I hope I've helped you a little bit. And I have the possibility to make, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I feel like I didn't tell enough. So if you want to learn more, perhaps okay, my learnings, think about one thing, you have to start do it. If you want to learn more, I have an e-learning, so that's a possibility. As I told you, I've written several books. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I'm really into this topic. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I will answer them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Jorine. You did quite a good job in 30 minutes. It's quite a short time, but again, people feel free to connect to Jorine. She's going to have her online stuff available from mid of December or something.
Yeah, this is the e-learning, but we also have 2 books, dialogue cards, webinars, of course, master classes. I think we have almost everything. If you want to do something, just let me know and we can help. And we is not because I'm the queen, but because I work with several people.
Thanks very much. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Jorine will be in touch soon. And thanks for this very important topic for everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing everything. And excuse me, I couldn't answer all the questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, you did good. So we will check in. If anyone has questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We can still get back to you on those. Okay, thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye.